guys, this video is just going to be more of a pointer rather than a demonstration. I'm just going to be pointing out what makes the human head and face kind of have depth and seem realistic. Here's the picture I'm copying from. Okay, compare it to that. Here's a higher and closer quality picture. If I just zoom out slightly so I can compare the two. See, what I've done so far is started to bring out the jawline. Now the problem with the jawline is if it's too dark and there's a blatant line between the two colours, the dark and the light, the subject will look quite skeletal and thin, which isn't the case in this picture. So if you just start to do that line like I said, but make sure it fades out. Okay, just start on this then. And it doesn't need to be a lot darker. You always need to go darker than you think you initially would have to. If it starts to fade out, it needs to be quite a quick fade out though, otherwise you'll end up getting too much fade, which won't then, I suppose, demonstrate depth. And obviously this goes all the way up the head. Especially dark areas above the eyes, because the forehead is one of the closest parts to you. Okay, now what starts to make depth apparent is pretty much light and dark. The nose and the forehead, like I said, are going to be the closest parts to you, and if the light's coming down, which it should be, then the shadow will be beneath it. Now the darker the lower part of the nose goes in comparison to the shine on the nose here, the more depth will be created, obviously within reason. So if we start shading this quite dark, start to get that effect that the nose here is closer. And the same for the forehead. The light is coming down, and this sort of arch maybe, where the eye is, there'll be a lot of depth here. This definitely needs to be quite dark in comparison to the forehead itself. Obviously under the neck, that probably needs to be one of the darkest points, but you want to make sure that even though this is one of the darkest points as well, the line of the chin, that there's some sort of white line in between this and the really dark patch of shade underneath the neck, sorry, the chin, so that it doesn't seem to be continuous, and you can definitely tell where the bottom of the head ends. Finally, obviously the head isn't flat all the way up, and with the forehead it kind of starts to protrude out here. So just to make that more apparent, if this starts to be shaded, see how that starts to work? Starts to make this part seem almost shaded by the forehead, meaning that the forehead must be closer to you than this area. And just adding bits like that to your work, add the depth and the tone, and it just generally starts to make it more realistic. Then you can start adding the final touches.
17 and dumb, look at me, I know right from wrong. You and me, we got something on, and I don't need to hear